Hi, this is Chris Smith with Local Joe's. At Local Joe's, we help local business. Hi, this is Chris Smith with Local Joe's.
This is City Pulse Newsmakers, a weekly look at the issues and the people behind them in Greater Lansing. Brought to you by City Pulse, Lansing's weekly alternative newspaper. And now, here's your host, City Pulse publisher, Burl Schwartz.
Good morning. This is the first of 3 shows we are doing with Lansing City Council candidates in the next 3 weeks. And with us today are the candidates for the 2 at-large positions that will be on the November general election ballot. Joining us are Carol Wood, the incumbent in the group, as ever. Harold Lehman, a former member of the Lansing City Council. Emily Dievendorf, a first-time candidate, and also Patricia Spitzley. Welcome to all of you. Welcome back to all of you as well. Let's start with some things in the news. A federal judge has just said that indeed the casino would be legal. And has removed any immediate obstacles that may change. But as the possibility of it gets closer, Carol, what are your thoughts on the city having a casino?
Well, actually, the city has made that determination already, because that's why we're where we are right now. So I think that's important. We're not rediscussing that. I think, though, what people need to understand is this is a long way off yet. Just because the federal court has made their determination with a lawsuit from the Attorney General, we still have the tribal compact that was done through the state dealing with where tribes would be allowed to put casinos. So when it's all said and done, before we'll see a shovel in the ground, is we also have to have a sign off from the governor on this. And it's my understanding that the tribes are still going forward with their suits. So this is a while away, and I think that as we talk about this, it's still in a talking stage. Council did approve the sale of property to allow this to go start the process, but again, I think it's incumbent for everyone to understand that by the time this is over with, you could end up having the tribes make a decision not to move forward based on economic issues and things that will come forward based on them 5 years down the road.
Harold, do you have any misgivings about a casino?
Well, I've always been on the record of opposing it, and having said that, there is a process that we're all following, we're watching regarding the courts and those others that are decision makers on see if it's going to go through. But I'm to the point where when it was originally put out there in 2011, the city had an agreement with the Ides/Gillespies regarding property north of the ballpark. And to my understanding, all that area now is being developed. There was supposed to be a parking ramp being put there on that property between Shiawassee and the ballpark and then Cedar Larch. There is a big, huge parking ramp going to be put in. So if that's not going to be available because of the all the new development going on, where are they going to park? And as I indicated, 2011, that was the plan. Now that's not there. So they're only, I can only think that they would head south toward Museum Drive for a parking ramp. Now I haven't heard that, but there are Impressions 5, the REO's museum there. So let's see what happens. But I do think the biggest issue facing the city, if it does go through, where are they going to park? Because they can't park on the old city market property. That's being developed. And then, of course, to the east is the ballpark, the outfield development, and then other developments that are going there. So where are they going to go? They can't go west toward the Capitol, and so I would think it's south, but there hasn't been any word from the administration what the big plan is, and I would hope they would put a plan out there so we all know where they're going to park the cars.
Emily, any thoughts, misgivings about having a casino?
I do have misgivings about having a casino. I have talked to various experts in economic development in municipal areas, and casinos don't actually help to aid economic growth. While they, of course, are an employer of many, it doesn't help to aid the growth around them. And I also think that it's problematic that it is yet another time that we are going to those who are most vulnerable and looking for quick fixes to desperate situations to resolve and fill in our education funding, when we could be trying to create programs to help those people who are struggling. Gambling is a problem for especially those who need that relief the most. So just like I think that the lottery is problematic for the same reason, I consider it a tax on the poor, I don't think that a casino should be the first place we go. If anything, if we want to see conferences be more likely to come downtown, if we want to see greater growth around that area, I'm not so much worried about the parking because casinos tend to resolve that issue in their own building. But I do think that maybe we should be looking at why there aren't more hotels built downtown. What kinds of deals we've made in the past to keep hotels out of downtown, because that is a great place to have a huge conference to make sure we're covering the overflow of legislative traffic and those people who have to stay over to do the good work in Lansing. But a casino isn't the first thing we should go to.
Patricia, your thoughts?
Well, I'm not necessarily against having a casino downtown. I just want to be sure that we understand that it is not a silver bullet for economic development. It is one piece potentially to an economic development story or strategy. So I'm not necessarily against it. I've seen where it's been integrated very well into downtown Cleveland. I travel to Cleveland quite a bit, and they have a casino downtown, and it has integrated into their downtown well. And so I think it can be done. I think we have to be thoughtful about it. I agree, it's a long time out, and in the meantime, we have a whole lot more weighty issues that we need to deal with, and we need to bring economic development and jobs to Lansing. Again, it can be a part of economic development, and I'm not necessarily against it, but in the meantime, we need to move forward to address some of the issues in the city right now.
All right, we'll start with you, Patricia, and go around the other way. Sharing the ballot with you will be a proposal to limit salaries for certain employees, such as the general manager of the Lansing Board of Water and Light. What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is a question. Does it apply to the general manager of the Lansing Board of Water and Light? That's my first thought. So I would have to look at it a little closer because I don't know. I'm reading the proposal, I'm reading the charter, I don't know. Do I think it's a good idea to limit contracts? Generally, yes, I do. The question I would have and the concern I would have is, does a one-year contract, will you be able to attract the quality employees that you would need with just a one-year contract? But there are plenty of people who have them. I do support the ballot. I think it's a good idea, but those are some of the questions that I would have on it.
Emily?
Well, we know that this proposal came up because the city was overwhelmingly disappointed with how much we paid Peter Lark and what ended up happening to our city in the midst of a crisis. So people are looking for accountability. People want to make sure that we are reviewing that the people who are there to do us good are actually doing us good and are being proactive with their solutions. And I think that we need to pay attention to the fact that we've been deemed irresponsible because of some of our decisions with how much to pay leadership, how little oversight to give them, and look instead at better oversight, more comprehensive reviews. Some people don't want to take a contract that's only 1 year because a lot of big projects can't be done in a year. Can't have a lot of progress happen in a year. So at the very least, yes, a review after a year, as everybody should have. In any job, you should have an annual review. But I don't know that a hard and fast limit should be there, and I don't know that the amount of power that has been proposed to be put in the hands of the mayor in respect to reviewing those people in their positions is the best idea either.
Well, if we could stick with that, and I'd like to get some comments from Harold and Carol as well. What concerns you about giving the mayor, regardless of which mayor it is, more authority?
Well, I think, again, there's a trust issue right now with the city, with some of the decisions that were made last time. And with the relationship that our leadership often has with key people in roles of leadership at the head of our corporations and, in this case, a public utility. I think that people want more community input. People want to feel like the people that they elected to office to represent them in their areas have more say in who ends up managing some essential components of their life, a public utility. In that case, I was out of power for a week. Plenty of us were out of power for a week. My neighborhood was shifting one generator to each house. Each of our houses got it for so many hours a day. Thank goodness for the kindness of my neighborhood. But we can't afford that kind of debacle again, and I think people want to feel like the people they elect have more say in that.
Harold, your thoughts on this subject?
Well, first and foremost, I have a history of knowing chronology of events, and when David Hollister, and I worked with David Hollister for approximately 8 years, he changed the Board of Water and Light, but he did it in a way of with board members, and he got quality board members, whether it be from the business community, from government, but he knew how to find the right person, and it took him 8 years to change that board approximately. And that's when Mr. Pandy was let go. And between Tony Benavides for 3 years, he had a good working relationship with the board. But it took 2 years when Virgil got in there to change the board, because he gets in everybody's face, and if he doesn't like the way they vote, some of them don't like that kind of attitude from a mayor, so they leave. And so you have, over the years that the mayor has been there, 10 years approximately, he has a board that, for the most part, was appointed. He appointed them, the council confirmed it, but he didn't get, I guess he didn't get his way on some things, and he gets in everybody's face, and this is what I don't like about it. There has to be a separation between the city of Lansing and the Board of Water and Light. It says it in the charter, and the mayor doesn't have the people around him as he did when he started. This is Mayor Virg Bonero, to rein him in, because he did tick off the business community and the labor unions. And so we're full circle here regarding the fact that, yeah, there are issues with any organization, and the Board of Water and Light's trying to deal with them. But the mayor has politicized things so much that you wonder where he is, where he truly means for the betterment of the city versus whatever his private agenda is. And the private agenda people are afraid of is selling the Board of Water and Light and having it held by a private company.
Well, let's stick with that, Carol. Certainly I'd like to hear your thoughts on this ballot proposal first, but I know you are opposed to selling the Board of Water and Light.
Absolutely.
Tell us first, though, your thoughts on the ballot proposal.
I don't support the ballot proposal. I did vote to have it put on the ballot for the public to vote on. My reasons for not supporting this are, one, this deals with the mayor's executive staff. We've dealt with that. When Virg Bonero first came on, was elected as mayor, one of his concerns was the golden parachute. We went back to find out where how this developed and how we could better look at it. There's already ordinance changes that happen that allow for only year contracts. All the compensation and the things that were being paid out as department heads left has all been reverted back and is in line with any employee that would leave the city. 2 is this will affect agencies within the city. That means not only, not only the Board of Water and Light, the Lansing Housing Commission, and the Lansing Authority, the LEFCA. Now, what this will mean is that, again, as we've talked about, limiting a contract to a year. All of those agencies have boards that are appointed, and when we talk especially about the Board of Water and Light and look at those issues, they could very easily and agreed to put it in as part of their policies and procedures to only have a year contract. Also, is the fact that along with that, there's an appellate court decision that said that the Board of Water and Light couldn't enter into more than a year contract because you cannot bind a future board into an employment contract over a period of time. So the board was actually, that had entered into this contract with Peter Lark, was out of compliance with what a court appeal, Board of Appeals court decision had made. So those are issues out there that have already been dealt with, and so I'm not sure what the necessity is other than if you want to go for more than a year contract, it comes back to the mayor. The mayor is going to make a decision whether this is somebody that's supporting his agenda or not supporting his agenda to move this forward for council to approve an ongoing contract.
So your position basically is based on distrust of Bernero? I mean, if this were another mayor, if this were Hollister, for example, would you be opposed to this ballot proposal?
I'm still opposed to it. I believe there are other fixes out there, and we've done many of those that allow us to do what this is trying to achieve. And why change the charter if you can go about it in another way? And, you know, the charter, should we not look at making changes? Absolutely. I think we need to from time to time. But just on a whim to decide to make a change because it doesn't meet your criteria is something that then takes value away from the charter.
Do the rest of you share this view that it's a whim?
I'm not a fan of, and I think I said that when we were here the last time, I am also not a fan of just opening the city charter. I believe that it is a document that takes a little bit more thought, and opening it for single issues or special issues, I think is bad policy.
Yeah, Emily?
No, I agree. I think that it was created to be a document that lasts until it as a document as a whole is meant to be renewed, and we should wonder why we are taking the time to open it up to look at a specific thing. We should be skeptical of the motivation behind it.
Let's talk about the study now that apparently has begun to consider whether to sell the Lansing Board of Water and Light. Of course, we have that IBEW poll that says 90% of the voters are against it, but isn't that a knee-jerk reaction? Why can't we say, hey, everything is on the table, and what is the harm of studying? Nobody says we have to sell it. Carol?
It's irresponsible.
Why?
We are trying, and this entire table has talked about development, it's talked about jobs, it's talked about the economy. When making decisions to come here as a business or to stay here as a business, one of the attractions is the Board of Water and Light. We sell that out there. When we talked about keeping GM, that was one of the forefronts when we were talking about our workforce, was our public utility. Am I going to make that decision if out there outlying constantly is this fact, are we or aren't we going to sell the Board of Water and Light? And I think that is bad for our economic stability in our community. It's bad for development, and it's bad for the creation of jobs. People, if they have opportunities to go other places where they believe that there's stability in the utility system and what their rates are going to be, then they're going to go there instead of settling here or staying here. And I think every time we talk about that, we are also talking about the possibility, and again, this is the mayor's word, possibility of the city going bankrupt. Are you going to want to settle your business here if you think a city's going bankrupt?
Harold, how do you, Carol makes a good point, but what if the mayor is right? What if it is possible the city's going to go bankrupt? Does it do
Well,
anybody any good to pretend that's not a possibility?
I think it's irresponsible for the mayor to send these mixed messages because regarding the financial situation with Lansing and using the Board of Water and Light to say, well, we should sell it and get some revenue and pay off our debt. I think that if you look at the past year, everything seemed to be going all right until the fall of 14. The general manager had got his new contract. The board itself, the members of the board of 8 that oversee that, everybody's on the same page, and then Mr. Lark is let go, and that was in the Christmas time or in the fall, but it's got to the point where I think the mayor has his own agenda, and usually if it would be David Hollister or Tony Benavides, they would always communicate to the council and say, this is what we're thinking, what do you think? And have a good working relationship with not only the members of the 8-member board members, because they meet with the council, and the administration of the Board of Water and Light meets with the council, and everybody's up front. And for the mayor to just say, well, he wants to go this route, and then upset everybody, then as Carol indicated, you have a lot of people questioning what's going on with the city. And there's ways to study things, but there's ways to keep it at a low level. And the Board of Water and Light, from the time General Manager Mr. Earl Brush was there for a long time, and then Joe Pandy, probably that was there for at least 10, 15 years. But then we went through a period of getting a general manager, and then that general manager was let go, and then they had some interims, and then another general manager, and then just by coincidence, Virgil's person, who was Peter Lark, got the job and kept it there, and there's this great relationship. He's over there doing a video of the new power plant with the mayor, and everybody's jolly. And then it just seems to, whatever happened, which is, I think, the private agenda of the mayor, and not exposing where he's coming from, but he wants it his way or the highway, and I'm just against the Board of Water and Light on the table being sold.
Patricia, do you agree with Harold? The mayor's got this private agenda that is over ruling everything else?
What I think is this public discussion about the sale of the Board of Water and Light has done a disservice to the citizens of Lansing. It's been polarizing, and when an employer is looking to come to the city of Lansing, and you do a Google search of the city of Lansing, what employer wants to see this type of contentious discussion about a jewel? The Lansing Board of Water and Light is a wonderful economic development tool. I am against its sale also. What I am for, though, is an audit of not only the Lansing Board of Water and Light, but all of our facilities that we have in the city of Lansing. I believe that we need to conduct that audit as part of looking at our finances and looking at our financial situation, and have all that information in front of us so that we can make thoughtful decisions. Again, I am against the sale of the Lansing Board of Water and Light. I don't think that sale will do the Lansing residents any good. So you sell it today and you have a dollar amount of whatever it is. what happens next year or what happens 5 years from now. I think it is a, I don't want to say knee jerk, but I think it is just a very quick fix that people are throwing out without looking for the long term and what happens 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 1 year from now, when that jewel is now gone.
Overall, how would you rate the mayor's performance? Overall.
I think he's done some good things. I've been a resident of Lansing, so I was here. My parents used to drop me off at the Michigan Theater downtown. We'd go for root beer sodas at Knapp's, and so you have, so I remember the downtown, and I remember the neighborhoods, and then I remember when there was nothing downtown, and it was like a ghost town, and so I'm really pleased to see that the downtown's coming back, and people are visiting downtown, and they're putting dollars there, so those dollars can be used to uplift our neighborhood and protect our citizens. And so in that way, I think that he's done a great job. I think that the mayor, he's a very strong personality. And I think that sometimes strong personalities are misunderstood. And I think that you have to have strong people on council to balance that strong personality and to make sure that you have people on council who are able to work with the mayor, because he is the mayor until he's not the mayor. And so we have to work with him.
All right, Emily, your thoughts on whether to consider selling the Board of Water and Light, and also your thoughts on the mayor.
Yeah, all of that. I'm like a little kid waiting for it to be called up. Well, I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction that people are having. I think they're having a very natural response to what seems to be a conversation about one thing and not about a comprehensive evaluation of how we're functioning as a city and what's sustainable and what isn't sustainable. If we weren't just talking about the Board of Water and Light and people had reason to have faith in our really looking at what's best for the city and not just going to the quickest fix and the most valuable entity that could fill some of our budget holes, then I think people would be less alarmed, not less attached to the Board of Water and Light, because I agree. Every other door I hit, that's the main issue that they bring up, and I have yet to have somebody on the side of selling the Board of Water and Light. It's the largest employer. People know the value of owning their own public utility. It would not be their number one thing that they want to go to as a solution, and it shouldn't be. It should be the last possible thing we consider as a way to resolve a financial crisis. But it could be a part of the inventory, as it should be. Everything in the city, we should find out if we're doing our best to manage those things. Now, I don't fault the mayor for saying that he thinks there's a possibility of financial bankruptcy. I don't want a city council or a mayor that hides from me if he's worried about the finances. Now, if that's part of a larger agenda and a personal agenda, I don't know. It's really up to us in the city to decide if that's a valid concern and to see if we are, to see continuously, if we are functioning in a way that really serves the people best. I want to hear if there is concern. And frankly, as a citizen, if I was a business leader, I would want to know all of the circumstances in that city I was considering putting down roots so that I could make an informed decision. I think that's fair. All
right, you get the last word on that topic and on everything. I want to thank all four of you for being here. Good luck to all of you in November. If you want more of City Pulse, you can tune in The Impact in just a minute or two. I have an interview with the father of the young man who died from heroin, who's on the cover of City Pulse this week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.